Hello and welcome to this first session of our course. The material that I'm going to be using for us over the sessions to come comes from a resource called the Life Course. Some of you might have come across it. I'll be loosely following this format, but I'll be including stuff that might be more relevant for today's situation with coronavirus and with us all being at home and in a different state, maybe mentally and emotionally, than we would be otherwise. I hope that you find it useful, as I said in our introduction, and we're going to start with a session called Be Still. Now this session comes from Psalm 46, Be still and know that I am God. And I wonder how easy you're finding it to be still at the moment in these days. Because if I were to have thought about being at home much more before this all happened, I would have assumed that there would be lots of opportunity for stillness, but actually that hasn't been the case. And I don't know if that's something that you found too, that in some ways there's been more activity, especially in the early days as we've got into more of a rhythm. Being still, doing one thing at a time, taking a moment to relax can be more important than ever when we're really under pressure. And whatever our situation is, whether we are alone, whether we're isolated, whether we're with others, and that might be a new and pressure-filled situation to be alongside other people. Hopefully there will be some tips during this session that will be really helpful for each one of us, and hopefully we'll learn something. So, without further ado, let's get going. If you are able, try and sit somewhere comfortable and try and focus just on this. Try and not have any distractions around you. Maybe put your phone somewhere else and take a few moments to concentrate on being still and knowing that God is God. Our first tip in this session is some really simple relaxation exercises. Now, you may be someone who's done these before. I used to be a mental health nurse, as I said, and I used to do a lot of relaxation, especially in the evenings, to help those who were on the wards to relax before they went to bed. And I found that it was a really powerful thing for me also, who was leading the sessions, to take a moment to check on my breathing and on what might be happening in my body in order to talk us through a way of becoming more relaxed, of moving from day to night. Now, it could be that at the moment you are struggling to relax at all. I know that in the early days of this staying at home situation, I was waking up really early in the morning at 4 a.m. and I didn't know why. And often when that was happening, as I was waking up, I was really struggling to be able to get myself into a place where I could go back to sleep again. This sort of exercise I found really helpful. So we're going to start by thinking about where in our body we might hold tension. And one of the places where it's possible that we hold our tension is in our jaw. So just notice for a moment where you are, wherever you're sitting, whether your jaw is clenched up. You might be someone who wakes up in the morning with a stiff jaw, an aching jaw, because you've been grinding your teeth, really clenching your jaw up. It could be that when things get stressful during your day, especially at the moment, that you're holding tension there. Just where you are, where you're sitting, notice how your jaw is feeling and give it a little wiggle. There's no one to see, so that's okay. You don't need to worry about looking silly, but if you are worried about it, do close your eyes if you want to. Just give it a wiggle and drop it open and notice if there's any difference in feeling, whether you can feel the tension disappearing. So the first part of our check on where we hold our tension in our bodies is our jaw. Then notice your shoulders. I know that I have a tendency to have my shoulders up around my ears. It's a habit that I've got into, and at times when I'm doing it, I have to be really conscious to drop them And I'm doing it now, and actually it does feel a lot better. And I always notice that it feels better and say to myself, right, next time, don't do it. But anyway, it doesn't work. But the more we practice, then hopefully the easier it will be. I need to learn my own lesson. So notice where your shoulders are, drop them down and pull them back. Jaw and then shoulders, and notice the difference. And what I've noticed straight away is that my breathing has slowed a bit and that my heart rate has slowed a bit. Really, really simple and easy, but really easy also to forget to do it when we're under pressure. Wherever you are at home during the day, whatever you're doing, whether you're working from home, whether you're looking after children, whatever the situation might be that you need to be still within, whenever you need a moment, check your jaw, check your shoulders, and then check your hands. Now, it's quite common for all of us to hold tension in our hands, and you might notice that you hold your hands in a fist sometimes. Maybe they're clenched. That's a common place for us to hold tension. And so just where you're sitting, notice how your hands are and open your palms out. And notice the difference of having open hands. It's interesting, isn't it, that that's a posture we often use to pray in. It's a posture of giving ourselves away, of not trying to hold too tightly to things, and it can help us to feel more relaxed if we physically let go of whatever it is that we feel we're holding on to. Open the palms of your hands and see how it feels. This 3-point check, jaw, then shoulders, then hands, is something that we can build in to our daily routine, whatever it might be. Or if we are really struggling, maybe you're feeling really anxious or panicky about the situation you're in, maybe you find it really hard to be at home all the time, maybe your circumstances are extra stressful, take a moment of quiet if you're able and just check where you're holding your tension. Because our physical selves and our emotional selves are really closely linked, and so making changes in our bodies can really make a difference to how we feel in our minds, in our hearts, in our emotions. Be still and know that I am God. So our first tip about being still is a 3-point check, jaw, then shoulders, then hands. Give it a practice now. Our next tip is using prayer in order to be able to help us to be still. Now, you may be really good at this. You may have a particular prayer that you reach for when your mind is racing, or you know that you're feeling under pressure, really stressed, and there may be a prayer that really helps you in these circumstances. If there is, then carry on, keep on using it. But a prayer that has been used by Christians across the history of the church is the Jesus prayer, and you probably have come across it, or maybe you pray it regularly already. And it goes like this: Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me. And something that I found really helpful, and I know others have, is to use it as a way of getting into breathing slowly and deeply. And so breathing in as you say, Jesus Christ, Son of God, and then out, have mercy on me. And repeating the prayer can be really helpful in order to focus your mind on just one thing, to focus your mind and your heart and your soul on God through Jesus, on reaching out to him when you're feeling like things are really difficult. And also to use it as a way of regulating your breathing. Breathing in slowly and deeply through your nose. I know it's hard to do that and talk. Breathing in slowly and deeply, Jesus Christ, Son of God, and then out through your mouth. Have mercy on me. Something that hopefully you will notice if you practice breathing in this way and using a prayer in this way is that in the same way as using the 3-point check that we talked about earlier, your mind will slow and your physical sensations will slow too. And so all of those things that can make us feel more stressed in our minds, that come from our bodies, hopefully will have slowed down and helped us to think in a less chaotic manner. Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me. So let's give that a try. As you try it for a moment, try breathing in deeply, first of all through your nose, and then breathing out through your mouth. And as you breathe out for longer than you have breathed in. So we're breathing in through our nose. And then out for longer through our mouth. And as we do so, Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me. Give it a try. Our third tip is being mindful. Now, practicing principles of mindfulness might be something that you've done before, that you've come across. Mindfulness is to do with being able to focus ourselves in the moment, and it's a profoundly Christian tradition. As the desert fathers and mothers took the faith out of the cities, as they practice solitude and prayer, they understood what it was to prayerfully seek God in the moment and to call others into that rhythm of prayer. We can often get caught up in life by rewinding to the past, to things that have gone before, and it could be that right now, as we live in these days of lockdown, of restrictive movements, of job loss, of bereavement, of the weight of everything that we carry collectively together as a society and that we carry as individuals, we may be rewinding to those beautiful days before everything changed and before there was so much sickness amongst us and so much fear. Or it could be that we're preoccupied with what might come in the future. Will our jobs still be there for us? Will we keep our health? Will those we love be healthy too? What will happen with our homes? How long will it last? The big question that everybody's asking. Mindfulness encourages us to not be too preoccupied with things from the past that we cannot change and that we cannot bring into the present, and things from the future that we have no control over. And all of this is a great exercise in having faith when we are very much realizing our lack of control. And so as we are mindful, we're trying to focus on just where we are, even when and even though it might not be where we want to be. Imagine, if you can, you may have had this experience, if there were to be a puppy in the room with me, if you were to put a puppy down in the middle of the room, it wouldn't just sit still. It would be off. It would be running around, sniffing around, chewing things up. We've got a dog. He was a puppy. That's what happens. They grow up into dogs. And there was no way he would just sit before he was trained in the middle of a room. And our minds are like that too. And part of what we can learn is to train our minds a little bit to not be going back to the past or worrying about what's to come, but being right here and right now, and trying to just take each day and each moment as it comes. Now, it's tough, and I'm not claiming that it isn't, and I don't always get it right, but it's something that we can, of course, get better at the more we practice it. And so just for a moment, give it a try. Where you are, sit quietly and try to focus just on one thing. Now, a good thing to focus on may be a prayer. So the Jesus prayer that we talked about a moment ago, or maybe the Lord's Prayer, because that's an easy one to remember. And if you notice your mind wandering to what you need to put on your shopping list, or the stuff you need to do, or all of the things that are overwhelming you, try and bring it back. Bring it back and focus again on the prayer. Give that a try now. Just to say, if you want to comment below about how you're finding trying any of these exercises, then please do, because if we can share our experiences, that will hopefully be really helpful for other people who might be trying it at the same time. We're taming that puppy in the room, trying to make it sit as still as possible. At those moments when you feel like everything's crushing in on you, and we all have them, and we will all have them in these really stressful times, practice. Try not to be too worried about other things that are going on, or other things that went on or may happen, and just focus on the here and now. A couple of tips with this: don't sit in judgment on yourself. Don't think, oh, I always do this. I always get hung up in what happened a month ago, and I wish I dealt with it differently, and I wish things could be different. Or I always do this. I always worry about the future, and I catastrophize it. I imagine it's going to be really terrible, and then it never is, and I'm so stupid. None of that. Don't sit in judgment on yourself. Just keep on trying, and do the thing that will be most helpful for you in the circumstances that you find yourself in. Try and take that moment to be still and remember that God is God. It's not easy to understand why the things that are happening are happening. It's not easy for any of us. And yet, God is with us in the middle of the mess. God is with us with his love and his mercy, and that is constant and it doesn't change. And he is with us, shining that light of hope wherever we are. And so be still and know that God is God. We've practiced that 3-point check: our jaw, our shoulders, our hands. I feel like I'm doing head, shoulders, knees and toes, which we could also do if you would like, but our jaw, our shoulders, our hands for now. We've practiced using the Jesus prayer to help us to focus on God, to be still and know that he is God, to focus on the moment and to still our breathing. And we've practiced stilling that puppy in the middle of the room, training that puppy to not be too preoccupied with everything around the edges and to be as much as we can in the moment. All that we are promised is this day, and none of us can know what's to come. And I pray that you would be able to live each day as it comes, knowing and trusting that God is with you. Before we end, let's take a moment of quiet. That in those moments of stillness you are with us. Help us to find more of them in our day-to-day lives. Help us to build in that rhythm of your presence each day, and help us to be still and know that you are God. Amen.